writers and readers, I'm Christy Stratus, and today is the day when we talk about a book from the Best Fantasy Books Subgenre Reading Challenge. And today's book is Quest Fantasy. It's Pawn of Prophecy by David Eddings. And when I put up on Twitter and Instagram that I was going to be reading this book, I got so many responses from people saying that they remember the exact time in their life when they read it, because either something major was happening, like one person said that he was traveling through Europe, or another person just remembered it so fondly as something they read when they were younger. I just thought it was really cool to hear all of those stories and nice memories. Quest Fantasy, what is it? You guessed it, we're going on a quest, and there's going to be a lot of traveling involved. You're going to see a lot of the fantasy world, which is a really cool thing, of course. Another major part of Quest Fantasy is seeing the myth and folklore of the land. So we have both of those in the Pawn of Prophecy. And so far I'm really liking the book a lot. I have no idea how far I am in it. Why is that, you ask? Because my iPod is being a real pain. I started reading it in an enormous hardcover version that was so huge I couldn't really read it easily. It was like 3 books in the Bulgaria series. So that's why it was such a huge hardcover book and it was so heavy. So I decided to do audiobook instead, and I personally really am not enjoying the audiobook version. I'm sorry to say. The voice talent is just not for me. I feel like a lot of the voices, the good part is that they're very varied to the point that I can tell easily the difference between these characters. You know, he doesn't have to say who he's talking about. I can tell by the voice, which is great. But a lot of the voices are quite grating. They are no fun, and especially for our main character, which is even worse that the main character's voice is annoying. He drags out a lot of his words like that. It's really annoying and it gets under my skin, but I'm still listening to it anyway. One of the tough things is when you don't like an audiobook the way it's read, but you like the book, and you have to really work to separate those two things. It can be tricky, but I've been trying really hard to do that. So I can say that I would have enjoyed reading it in a print version much better. In terms of the quest, I think that one of the coolest things about this book is that the main character himself doesn't really know what the quest is about. So we have an idea because we see a little bit more behind the scenes. It is third person. It's not third person omniscient, but we have already seen, and this is the other part I like, in the prologue, we saw all this folklore, we saw all this, it was almost like a really good mix of mythology and like a religious text almost. I really liked the way it was done, and it wasn't a really long prologue, but it is very easy to refer back to, and you're going to need it probably as you go through the series, because it describes a lot of different lands and people and where those people came from, and it is integral to the story, and it definitely helps you work out the rest of the story. So we have an idea of what's going on, but the main character is a little bit lost and confused. So I think that that's kind of a cool concept, that our main character doesn't really understand the quest we're on that well. Slowly he gets to understand it, and the other thing I like is that this book is very devoted to character development. Now, my holy grail of fantasy books is now The Way of Kings. It is my favorite fantasy book that we have read in this reading challenge so far. Oh my god, is it amazing. So that's my personal opinion. It is heavy in the character development. I can tell you that the Pawn of Prophecy has very different character development. Nothing like The Way of Kings, but it's still good, and what we're seeing is that this particular book is dedicated to getting us acquainted with the characters and each of their backgrounds, and we're kind of taking some travels, meeting some more people, seeing a little bit more of Garion, that's the main character, his aunt, or as the guy in the audiobook says, Garion. His aunt, we see a little bit more of her when we go to a particular area, and now we're seeing another character and his background. So in that way, we're really learning who we're questing with. So I think that that's great, and it's going to set up the whole rest of the series for us, so it makes a lot of sense. Like I said about the folklore, the mythology that all happens in the beginning and the prologue, and you just learn more and more about it, and it's kind of cool as you see the main character learn what you already know. I really enjoy it. I think it's a great book. It definitely fits Quest Fantasy, and I think that as I go on, if I were to read more of the series, I think that we would have more subgenres mixed in there, but for now, Quest Fantasy is the absolute perfect subgenre for it. Like this video and subscribe to my channel for more of these videos. You'll see them every single Saturday on my channel, and thanks for spending time with me.